Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're looking at something I think affects us all, how our mental state how well we actually do things.
Right.
We're exploring the Yerkes-Dodson Law. It's this really interesting idea about the link between stress, or maybe arousal is the better word,
Yeah, arousal is the technical term, covers more than just stress.
and our performance. Think of it like trying to find that perfect setting, that Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. Not too much, not too little.
So our mission today is basically to unpack this law, see what it really means in practice, using some pretty thought-provoking questions from our sources.
Absolutely. These questions really get you thinking about your own peak performance moments
Mm.
and why they happen.
Okay, let's get into it then. So the Yerkes-Dodson law, it's often visualized as this kind of upside-down U shape, right?
The inverted U curve. That's the classic image.
So on one end, like if you're feeling really low energy, maybe bored stiff, performance isn't going to be great.
No, you're just not engaged enough.
But as your energy, your focus, your arousal ramps up to a moderate level, performance generally gets better. It climbs that curve.
Right, you hit that optimal point, the peak of the U.
And this is the kicker, if that arousal keeps climbing, if you get too keyed up, like really stressed or anxious.
Then performance starts to slide back down the other side.
Right.
You get overwhelmed, maybe make mistakes.
So that sweet spot on the curve, it's not universal, is it?
No, absolutely not. And that's crucial. It really depends on the task. Like if you're doing something really difficult, something complex,
Yeah.
you generally perform better with lower arousal. You need to be calm, focused.
Okay, right. Trying to learn, say, complex code when you're totally frazzled, probably not going to work well.
Definitely not. But for simpler tasks, things you know well, maybe even routine stuff.
Let me guess, higher arousal is okay then. Maybe even helpful.
Exactly. A bit more energy, maybe even a little time pressure can actually sharpen you up, make you faster, more efficient.
Interesting. So if a task feels boring, maybe adding a small challenge could actually boost how well you do it.
It could. It's about nudging yourself into that optimal zone for that specific task.
And if we think about the brain, like what's going on up there, even broadly?
Well, we don't need to get super technical, but
Yeah.
you can imagine different arousal levels engaging different brain systems.
Yeah.
Too low, maybe not fully switched on. Too high.
Brain freeze, like mental gridlock.
Sort of, yeah. It can disrupt clear thinking, effective processing, information overload, perhaps.
Which sounds exactly like choking under pressure.
It's a perfect explanation for it. High stakes push that arousal way up, often past your personal peak for that task.
And suddenly you can't even do things you normally find easy.
Precisely. It happens to athletes, musicians, students, in exams.
Which brings up another point, we're all different, aren't we?
Hugely different. What feels like motivating pressure to one person could feel completely debilitating to someone else. Your baseline arousal, how you react,
Yeah.
it varies a lot.
So knowing yourself is key.
Absolutely. Understanding your own responses is fundamental to managing this.
Okay, so how do we actually use this in, say, learning or training environments?
Well, it suggests tailoring things. For really tough new concepts, maybe aim for a calmer, lower pressure setting. Give people space to think.
Right, avoid cranking up the stress unnecessarily.
But for practicing skills that are becoming more familiar, maybe introducing a bit more challenge, like a timer or small competition, can actually help consolidate them.
Pushing the arousal up towards that optimal point for that level of task difficulty.
Exactly. And it's useful here to maybe distinguish between good stress and bad stress.
Eustress versus distress.
Yeah. Eustress is that positive, energizing feeling that keeps you sharp, focused, in the zone. That's the top of the curve, essentially.
And distress is tipping over the edge.
Right. That's when you feel overwhelmed, anxious, and performance tanks. That's the downside of the curve.
And staying in that high arousal distress zone constantly, that leads to problems, right?
Oh, definitely. That's a recipe for burnout. Reduced productivity, exhaustion. It takes a toll over time if you're always operating past your optimal point.
What about emotions? How do they fit in?
Well, emotions heavily influence arousal. Feeling excited or determined might give you that helpful eustress boost, but, strong anxiety or fear.
Pushes you right over the peak into distress.
Often, yes. Though sometimes even positive emotions, if they're too intense, could potentially be distracting depending on the task. It's complex.
Now, we should probably mention this is a model, right? It's not the only thing affecting performance.
Oh, for sure. It's
Yeah.
a simplification. Lots of factors are involved: motivation, skill level, environment. but it's a really useful framework, a good starting point for understanding that arousal piece.
A valuable lens, let's say.
Exactly. A lens to view performance through.
So wrapping up, the main takeaway seems to be the connection between how energized or stressed we feel and how well we perform isn't just a straight line.
Not at all. There's an optimal zone. Too little arousal, we're sluggish. Too much, we're frazzled.
And finding that zone depends on the task. Is it hard or easy? And on us, our individual wiring.
Right. And just being aware of this can be quite powerful.
So final thought for you, the listener. Think about your own life. Can you pinpoint times when you felt in the zone? What did your energy or stress level feel like then? Was it high, low, somewhere in the middle?
And maybe consider, going forward, could you consciously adjust things? Maybe take deep breaths before a presentation or listen to upbeat music before a routine task to nudge yourself towards that optimal performance level more often.
It really comes down to understanding your own internal state and how to balance it for whatever challenge you're facing. Food for thought.